So, LaVar Arrington, we've been talking about the potential moves in and around the NFL for certain quarterbacks in the league. And this one is maybe the most interesting because I think a lot of people just assumed it was going to be a foregone conclusion that, and you made mention of this, that Kirk Cousins was going to go back to Minnesota. And Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk, and there's also a second part to the Mike Florio aspect of this.
Y'all's boy.
Yeah, right.
You and Q's boy.
So he said that, quote, "We can't get into the specifics for now, but we're getting very credible indications that Kirk Cousins is seriously considering moving his family to Atlanta, which would mean obviously he'd be signing with the Falcons. The Falcons have always been the top alternative to the Vikings for Cousins, who becomes an unrestricted free agent next Wednesday. And for good reason. His wife, Julie, grew up in nearby Alpharetta, Georgia, and her parents still live there. So there is some, and the betting odds have Kirk Cousins as the favorite to be the Falcons' next quarterback. And we kind of kicked this around yesterday that, you know, that Arthur Blank and Atlanta has serious interest in him, and he would obviously have interest there with all the weapons and talent that they've got. And then you add in his wife's familiarity and being from the area and all that makes sense. Now, Florio had a little bit of a meltdown on social media last night because he found out, people started to push back on this report. So he kind of didn't handle that well, which is par for the course with him. But Kirk Cousins to Atlanta, and next thing you know, an option off the table for a Russell Wilson, but one that would open up in Minnesota, as we pointed out. And it also becomes clear, and this has been sort of being kicked around as well, too, that the market for Justin Fields ain't exactly what I think a lot of people thought it was going to be, especially in Chicago. Because now Justin Fields is looking around going, well, now what? Like, he wanted to go back home. Like, forget Kirk Cousins' wife. Like, Justin Fields wanted to go back home, and now apparently Atlanta has their sights set on Kirk Cousins, and it ain't like the Bears are going to trade him to Minnesota. So now that opens up the potential of where could he end up, and maybe it is one of these other teams that you were talking about, like a Raiders or somebody like that, looking to add to that position.
I mean, Kirk Cousins, first and foremost, is definitely in the driver's seat with everything that's going on because you have a suitor that hasn't made any bones about their interest level and wanting to bring him in if he were to make it to next Wednesday. So with that being said, all this really is, with Mike Florio reporting, is a negotiation tactic, right? This is posturing. The idea of saying you're going to move your wife and kids to the area of the market of the team that's suiting you. I mean, again, to do that prematurely, all that says to me is that this is a plea by Kirk Cousins to get Minnesota to step up to the plate and give him an offer that he can't refuse before he becomes a free agent.
And by the way, he does have a hell of a track record as a businessman in the NFL.
Well, it's not too bad. Yeah. It's not too bad. And he does have the ability to play both sides here, because if I'm looking at it from the Atlanta side of it, I'm basically saying, listen, I'm a loyal guy. And I'd probably want to come back to Minnesota, but would have no problem readjusting and adapting to life as an Atlanta Falcon. And so I'm going to see this through, obviously. I have to, contractually speaking. I don't become a free agent until next week. But all things given, if I do become a free agent, I would love to be an Atlanta Falcon. That, to me, is business 101 success, because you're lining up an employer already before you depart from the employer that you currently have. Or you're getting the employer that you currently have to see that there is a value for your skill set and your talent somewhere else. And that could possibly be the reason why there's a little bit more attractiveness to wanting to bring you back. So he's playing it. If it's him, if it's his agent, if it's his wife, if it's all of them, whoever it is, I think they're playing it the right way.
Yeah, it's going to be and look, you also got, I mean, we assume Baker Mayfield's going to be back in Tampa Bay. We assume that's going to be, the move there. But who knows? I mean, there's some thought that the Patriots were really interested in Baker Mayfield. That was also discussed at the Combine. I just, you're kind of waiting on, it feels like Kirk Cousins will kind of dictate the rest of these moves around the NFL. Like, he's the guy in control. He's the guy who, depending on where he decides he wants to play or where he ends up, then that way everything else opens up for him. So if he goes back to Minnesota, I think, Justin Fields becomes a top priority for the Atlanta Falcons. But man, if Kirk Cousins ends up in Atlanta, now what? What the hell goes on?
Well, and don't lose sight of the fact that these teams are always going to be cunning. They're going to be, very, very strategic in how they handle things. So there's teams out here that probably value Russell Wilson more than they value Kirk Cousins. There's teams out here that may value Justin Fields more than Kirk Cousins and Russell Wilson. We're not going to know who they are, and we may not know who they are. It may not play out where we find out what it was, but I'll say this. I wouldn't look at it as it's just a foregone conclusion. Kirk Cousins is the best one that's on the market, this, that, and the other. While in rank and media coverage he may be, to a team, they're looking at who they want and what that guy represents to their team and what he could possibly represent to their success. And that might be a Justin Fields. That might be a Russell Wilson. It might not be Kirk Cousins. So that's just, we're talking about one guy because there's a team that has outwardly showed and expressed the interest of having him there. I mean, the reports that have been put out there, I mean, you tell me, I don't know that there was one that was directly quoting guys from Atlanta. I know when they said, it's reported that Arthur Blank said, open up the checkbook, pay whatever he wants. I don't know that those things came direct from Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, so all this is sourcing. I think it was Zach Klein of WSB TV who was the person to originally point out that, Arthur Blank told the Falcons, go and, whatever it takes, let's, try and get Kirk Cousins. That's his preference. But yeah, we haven't heard anybody from.
But that was his quote. That was not directly correct. What you just said. That was not direct from the Atlanta Falcons.
No.
So to me, if you're putting it out there like that, I don't know that to be true. Just like what Rossini's saying, what she's saying about the Steelers and their quarterback, I don't know that to be true. And who knows how that coach or whoever the person that, those people spoke with that day, who's to say what their mood was? I'm in a screw you mood today. I'm in an amazing mood today. I'm in an upset mood today. I'm in a disappointed mood today. That could have played a part in how they gave their information out that day. Nobody's going to know what a team is doing. I say outside of the Chicago Bears, nobody knows what anybody's going to do.
Yeah.
Right? So at the end of the day, take it as a grain of salt. And when something pans out, when it shows up, it's going to show.
And I also think the way the Bears have approached this whole thing, they've been real silky smooth about the entire process thus far.